Palestinians from Gaza?
Yeah, I would like to see Jordan. I'd like to see Egypt take some look. The Gaza thing has not worked. It's never worked. And I feel very differently about Gaza than a lot of people. I think they should get a good, fresh, beautiful piece of land, and we get some people to put up the money to build it and make it nice and make it habitable and enjoyable and
somewhere else.
make it a home.
They don't want to leave, though. Palestinians say they don't want to leave.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site. It's a pure demolition site. If we could find the right piece of land or numerous pieces of land and build them some really nice places with plenty of money in the area, that's for sure, I think that would be a lot better than going back to Gaza, which has had just decades and decades of death.
Where would those pieces of land be?
Well, they
Those
could
Arab
be in
countries
Jordan,
don't
and
want
they
to
could be in Egypt, and they could be in other places. You could have more than two, more than one, but you could have more than two. And you'd have people living in a place that could be very beautiful and safe and nice. Gaza's been a disaster for decades.
Would the U.S. pay for that?
I don't
contribute?
think
Would the United
the
States
UN would
contribute?
pay, but I think there's plenty of people that would in the area. They have a lot of money.
Donald Trump stated the following: the United States will take over the Gaza Strip. Let's make one thing loud and clear to Donald Trump, to Netanyahu, and to the Zionist entity: Gaza is not for sale. Palestine is not for sale.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got a major announcement from President Trump after his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. As you guys should know, everybody should be aware that President Trump achieved a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas just a few days before he took office. The Biden administration tried to take credit for it, but everybody knows that President Trump was responsible for the ceasefire. Now, at the time, I said that this is not over. I'm hoping that it will be over at the very least for the next 4 years, but I highly doubt that this is the end. Okay. And in fact, I had been warning about what would eventually happen. Okay. It wasn't about if, it was about when. And I got a whole lot of backlash for it. And we're going to talk more about it. We're going to get in more details. But first, I want to go ahead and play this video of the major announcement that President Trump made about what's going to happen in that region, which is that the United States, according to President Trump, is going to take over the Gaza Strip. As in, the U.S. is essentially going to occupy that area of land, push the Palestinians out by essentially making their neighbors, Egypt and Jordan, take in a vast majority of the refugees and then rebuild that area into basically Gaza Lago. Take a look.
I strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that. We're a respected nation again.
And Mr. President, given what you've said about Gaza, did the U.S. send troops to help secure the security vacuum?
So Saudi Arabia is going to be very helpful, and they have been very helpful. They want peace in the Middle East. It's very simple. We know their leader and their leaders very well. They're wonderful people, and they want peace in the Middle East. As far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that. We're going to take over that peace, and we're going to develop it, create thousands and thousands of jobs, and it'll be something that the entire Middle East can be very proud of. But everybody feels that continuing the same process that's gone on forever, over and over again, and then it starts, and then the killing starts, and all of the other problems start, and you end up in the same place. And
he thinks Gaza is beautiful and they have the best weather. Today, as you mentioned, Riviera in the Middle East. It sounds like he's been talking about it like somewhere that they should build his sandals. And now he's talking about it like somewhere that the United States should go plant a flag.
Forcibly removing Palestinians from their land is against international law.
I think we're being a little dramatic, and we're on our jump to conclusions, Matt, here a little bit. He muses occasionally.
Taking him at his word.
He muses occasionally.
Look, Scott,
and
just to be clear,
it's
because you're suggesting that we are making this up or
no, I'm not suggesting anything.
It.
No, you're putting words in my mouth.
Well,
I'm saying you and I both know he muses occasionally, and he's aspirational, and he says provocative things
Scott,
occasionally.
I really don't want to interrupt you, but I just for my own, I think I have to come to my own defense here in saying Donald Trump, with his own words, said this is what he wants to do. He wasn't musing. He was looking down at a piece of paper. I've been in a room with him, just like that, with foreign leaders, looking down at a piece of paper. He is reading a statement that was prepared for him. Those are not musings.
Well, Scott, what happened to America first?
So I
this
think
is the guy who was supposed to take us out of the endless wars, said he's against nation building. He railed against I know.
Playing the role of Catherine tonight. Red.
I do want Scott.
Are you for the ethnic cleansing or against it?
Look, I don't know that I agree with the terminology you're using. Here's what I think. It's provocative. It's an interesting conversation point. Donald Trump, he's the only person in the world speaking positively about this particular geography right now. And I will just say that in the first term, he did something rather audacious with the Abraham Accords, highly successful. He's always thought positively and aspirationally about the Middle East. And I would just ask all of you all who are enraged about this, how's it going right now? How's the current management doing?
Not really all that well. To answer you, and that's because of Americans' weapons and American inability to enforce.
You're blaming us for the management problems in Gaza?
Yeah, so you see that you heard that. Now, before I give you guys my commentary, my opinion on this announcement, I want to play a clip, a flashback clip of me discussing this issue on the Jimmy Dore show, in which they asked me about this issue, and I just gave them my honest opinion, and the comment section was very, very, very upset with my brutally honest opinion about what I thought was going to happen in the long run when it came to this conflict involving Israel and Hamas and the Gaza Strip. Take a look.
So do you wish we could get a different one? I mean, what are your views on it?
My views on Israel, I'm a realist when it comes to kind of foreign policy and stuff like that. So I personally think that no matter what happens, eventually Israel's just going to take all the land. And it's not about if, it's about when and how. Are the Palestinians gonna leave, or is Israel going to take out enough of them to eventually take the whole Gaza Strip? That's what the question is about. It's not about if, it's about when. And I just don't think that they can live together peacefully. So at this point, it's really about, do we want to co-sign that happening?
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, in the comment section, an audience of leftists said that I was ignorant, that I was calloused, that I was cold, I was heartless, that I support genocide, right? They accused me of all types of stuff. And I was just giving them my honest opinion. I didn't say I agreed or disagreed with it. I just gave my honest opinion based off what I thought was inevitable, which is that the Palestinians are going to have to leave that little strip of land, because it is plainly obvious. It is very clear that there will never be a two-state solution. The only solution is for the stronger nation, which is Israel, or the United States, because the United States is funding Israel. So basically, it's going to be Israel. It's going to be the United States. It's for the United States or Israel, some Western power, to occupy the territory. Now, what President Trump is proposing is slightly different from what I predicted, but I think that ultimately the end game will call for the Palestinians to be relocated. Now, how that's done, that's the key question. That's a lot more complicated, because at least up until now, the Arab neighbors like Egypt and Jordan, they haven't really wanted to let the Palestinians in, okay? Partly because of the terror threat from Hamas, also because, like, low-key, they want the Palestinians to stay there so the conflict continues. Therefore, they can continue to essentially make Israel look like the bad guy, right, in the conflict. I'm not saying that, you know, Israel's completely 100% innocent, right? I'm neutral, okay, when it comes to this stuff. But again, this idea that there will be a two-state solution and that the Palestinians will eventually have their own state is almost as far-fetched as black people saying that there will be reparations, right? That's kind of the way I see it, right? It's one of those things where it's just like, okay, who knows? Maybe it should have happened a long time ago, but it didn't happen, okay? And now I just think that we're too deep into this conflict to get a two-state solution. The only solution, again, is for the land to essentially be fully occupied by some other entity, because Hamas is hell-bent on trying to destroy Israel. Israel is hell-bent on trying to take over the land. Yeah, this is just inevitable what's going to happen. And I think that President Trump is cutting through the BS. Now, again, there's a whole lot of questions about this. We just went over, you know, the Palestinians leaving. Okay, will that be done voluntarily? Will that be done by force? If it has to be done by force, I don't want American troops to be involved, right? This is the one thing that I disagree with Trump over. I do not want American troops to die in order to establish this piece of territory in the Middle East. Okay, now if Israel wants to go and you know, clean it out, which they basically already have done, you know, hey, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I support it. I'm just saying that, you know, if it's going to be done, then, you know, Israel can do it. But I don't think that we should have anything to do with that. Now, if the job of the American soldiers is to go in and then, you know, prepare the land and help rebuild the territory after all the Palestinians are gone for the most part, and there's no threat of soldiers dying, then, hey, you know, I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with it. I'm just saying that that probably is the ideal scenario. And having this territory become U.S. territory is probably the best solution for long-lasting peace, because at the very least you can say, well, Israel didn't really take it. The United States took it. And hey, you know, this is one conflict that we just don't have to worry about anymore, okay? So I don't know, man. I'm just saying that I don't see how what other people are putting out there, right? The people who are upset with President Trump putting this out there, right? The people who are hell-bent on this two-state solution happening, that is not going to happen. I'm trying to figure out, how is this the moral position when that just leads to more Palestinians dying in the future? The same thing is going to happen over and over and over again. And guess what? We've spent billions of dollars giving aid to the Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza, $7.6 billion from 1993 to 2021. Now, we also have provided billions of dollars in aid to Gaza from October 7, 2023 to today of $2.1 billion. So we're talking about $10 billion plus in aid to Gaza. Now, in the world that these protesters want, where Gaza gets its two-state solution, which again, is not going to happen because Israel's not going to let it happen. They would never let the Palestinians get a state, a full-blown state on their borders with Hamas and like it's just not going to happen. But anyways, if they got it their way and we continue with the status quo of rebuilding and then Israel destroying the place, we're just going to keep spending billions and billions and billions on a conflict that's never going to end. It's never going to end. So what you're going to have here is a bunch of leftists. They're going to pretend as if they're on some moral high ground here, as if what Trump is proposing is immoral and what they're proposing is moral. But in their world, in their ideal scenario, their solution is not a moral solution. Their solution just results in more deaths of Palestinians. That's it. That's all it results in. At least with President Trump's solution, you have less Palestinians dying. Now, I'm not even saying that I agree with it, okay? I haven't marinated on the news long enough to say whether or not I agree or disagree with it. I got to see the details in regards to what's the plan here, right? What exactly is happening? Now, I wouldn't say this is necessarily like Iraq or anything like that. A lot of people are saying that this is some George W. Bush type stuff, and I actually disagree with that because the difference is that we're not going to be nation building in the sense that we're going to be propping up a puppet government of some other country that, you know, we really don't have control over, but we pretend like we do. No, this is going to be direct U.S. control, okay? Direct U.S. control, so it's going to be a little bit different. And agree or disagree with it, you have to admit that this is different than the status quo. It's different from what we've been doing in the past. What we've done in the past has failed, okay? These two groups of people do not want to live together peacefully, and at some point, you got to try something different, right? You got to mix it up and say, hey, let's do something else. So, you know, I don't know what's going to come of this. All I know is that this is inevitable, right? It's going to happen. Now, I was off a little bit, right? I said that Israel would take it over, but I mean, effectively, even if it's U.S. territory, Israel will probably have significant control and influence over the area, and ultimately we'll profit from it, okay? We'll turn it into, you know, Dubai. That's essentially, I think, what the vision is from President Trump, right? President Trump is a real estate guy, and he sees that as a piece of real estate that has been destroyed over and over and over again. And he sees that if we continue with the status quo of spending money to rebuild it and then turning around and having Israel destroy it, again, that it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's just more bloodshed and conflict unnecessarily. And as Trump is essentially advocating for, just get it over with, right? This is inevitable. Israel wants the land. They want it. They're going to take it eventually. Again, whether or not people like hearing that's just what I think is going to happen. And this could be the most peaceful way of the inevitable happening, right? That's essentially what I'm trying to say. So again, my argument is not whether it's right or wrong, whether I agree or disagree with it. That's not the argument here. I would rather not see the U.S. military be involved in this, okay? I would rather kind of stay over here in America and not have America in the Middle East. But I'm just saying that based off what we've done in the past, we're going to be committing billions and billions and billions of dollars to once again build up an area of land that eventually will be destroyed again by Israel because Hamas is going to keep attacking Israel, and Israel really wants the land. They're going to try to take it anyway. Like, that conflict's just never going to end. And maybe this could be the best way of ending the conflict. And again, right or wrong, whether you agree or disagree with what President Trump is doing, this is different from what we've been doing. And I think that is what makes this a very fascinating proposal. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.